storming. Rain stay pouring all over the court. Check the trade scoring. A rational activist. Others remain dormant. Factual passages able to wage war when time call for it. Burn fire upon corporate setting his back. Sun is fall forward. See the big picture. Don't get stuck on small portraits. Tap resources. Your three inner forces. Mind, body, and soul working like piano chords. Linking the piece together from the root like Neanderthals. Reserving and the militant behavior when I convert into the cross satanic spiritual savior. Words that I use are the true fifth I never gave ya. Anything else in your life, remember words that I breathe on this mic. I print people a copy to read what I write. Tell it fast like Mach speed on a bike. Like a native chief, I speak and bring peace with a pipe. Subtle as a thief in the night with beats in the light. Check the I'm blacking out like Slobodan Milosevic. Hold that, take some with you. Eternal pain when New Jerusalem hit you. Fall back, don't press the issue with script, lock, script, check, Bethlehem officials.
Yo, what up, people? What up? It's Bigger Ford and Terrence. Terrence, talk to the people for a second. I got a real quick call.
Oh, okay. Yep. How you doing, humans? You have Terrence here from T-Virus Terrence. Once my brother Nzo returns, we will be discussing episode 2 of Tales from the Walking Dead, and have some interesting opinions on this particular episode, and I would imagine that Nzo does as well. In relation to the first episode, if you're not aware, I found that to be intriguing because of Terry Crews's character, and this one is interesting too in other ways. And I've been watching The Walking Dead from the beginning, season 1, episode 1, since it dropped. You know, me and my friends, we were watching it. A lot of them kind of fell off, but I kept going. And then Fear the Walking Dead came out, which is pretty cool. And then The Walking Dead World Beyond, that has some interesting moments. It kind of picked up, like I would say, probably about the beginning of the second season. Because the first season is like you kind of get into it. It's a little different in terms of the style of storytelling. But it does introduce some interesting things in season 2. And then, of course, now, the whole Tales. So this universe is pretty big, a lot of different characters and storylines. You can pick and choose which characters you like, which characters you dislike, which characters you love to hate. There's a very big sense of material. And I do appreciate that, because sometimes some individuals can find it overwhelming, between all these different shows and how long The Walking Dead is and Fear the Walking Dead, and he's like, man, I don't even know if I want to dive into this. I get it, but if you've been watching it from the beginning, then it's really, you didn't know that it was going to turn into all this. It was just kind of, you were along for the ride, and then lo and behold, here we are in 2022, almost 2023, and we're still talking about it. The universe is still going. The Walking Dead is about to end, but Fear the Walking Dead is going to keep going. Tales from the Walking Dead, I think that's like 6 episodes total, if I'm not mistaken, like an anthology series where you follow different characters. So now it is time to discuss what's at hand, which is episode 2 of this particular show.
What's up, Tony Robinson? Thank you for popping in. Shout out your channel real quick, though, Terrence, because I know you started talking, but you didn't shout out your channel. Shout out your channel, brother.
Oh yeah. Humans, you can find me on T-Virus Terrence over there. There's all sorts of things, just everything you could possibly imagine. And I try to push the limit and stuff because, I kind of try to silence us in 2022. So I really just talk about a lot of different things, and I tend to have colorful opinions. I feel like a lot of humans appreciate it, but then there's definitely the ones where they just be sitting there, the steam coming out the ears, and they're ready to just cancel your boy. But I ended up coming back after many times of cancellation. That's why I came up with the whole T-Virus Terrence thing. Like a virus, you kind of just return back full form, stronger than ever. That's how I got the name of my channel. But regardless of if you want to hear topics, reviews, I share different commentary and scenes and stuff that I like. It's just really a great variety over there. So I feel like as long as your mind is open, you got all kinds of stuff to feast on.
Absolutely. And if you guys ain't sub to his channel, obviously make sure to sub to his channel. There's only really two people in here watching right now. Hopefully more people come in. So tweet it out. We'll get more people in here. But I think a lot of people fell off of The Walking Dead, so that's probably why. But I love it, and I
Yeah.
thought I think this show is pretty good. But we'll get into this episode because I know backstage I asked you if you liked it, and you were like no, and I was like yeah, I kind of feel the same way. So
Hmm.
why didn't you like this episode, Terrence?
Okay. I would say when I was watching it, like when it first starts off, it didn't like really feel like it was in that universe, right? You kind of
Mm-hmm.
like if you were to just walk into the room, you would have no idea that you're watching, the same kind of universe. You'd
Mm-hmm.
think it was something else. And then as the episode progressed, not only did I not like any of the characters, but all of a sudden it turned into Final Destination, Anzo.
Mm-hmm. Or
I was
Groundhog Day. You know what I
right,
mean? Yeah.
right. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, and I was telling my brother, and because it was interesting how when we got to that moment, we both like looked at each other, and I was like, so we're doing Final Destination now. You're changing the rules of the universe, except
Mm-hmm.
in this case, you have two individuals that have the premonitions, and I'm like, do you know, Anzo, how so many situations would have been different if characters would have had premonitions, especially like Rick and Morgan,
Yeah.
like all the stuff they've been through. It would have been a completely different show because then you get to relive stuff and do things differently. Like there's so many things that you can avoid because of the whole reset thing, because
Mm-hmm.
you're essentially living it in your head, but it's like this is one of the many outcomes that's gonna happen unless you do X, Y, and Z. So that was throughout the whole episode, and you got a little couple inklings of zombies, but I was like, it didn't work for me in this universe. I'm like, this is a whole other concept, and I always think that when you're doing a larger universe, you start doing all these spin-off shows. It's important to remember how your universe started, and you don't want to
Absolutely.
detract from that by introducing bizarre elements, because then
Mm-hmm.
it's like it brings up too many questions. It's like, okay, if individuals have premonitions, does that mean that somebody has telepathy, somebody else has telekinesis? Like, what's the
Mm-hmm.
limit to that?
Hmm. And you see exactly what same thing was my problem with it. I'm like, this isn't like okay, so Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, all the shows are grounded in a certain reality, you know what I
Right.
mean, for whatever you want to take it, right? They're grounded in a reality. But now you have this episode where they're having premonitions. They're doing the Groundhog Day thing. Like every time someone dies, it resets and goes back to the same thing. And then they're trying to do something different to change it. And I'm like, I don't see these two characters ever being part of the bigger picture. Like in the first
Right.
one, I could see Terry Crews and that chick, like,
Hmm.
maybe coming
Yep.
into one of the series. But
Right.
these two, you can't, because if you do that now, then you're saying, okay, so what they went through is actually a part of the whole universe, which takes it out of the realm of reality.
Right. That's exactly right. See, we're on the same wavelength because like as we were fast forwarding through the commercials and stuff, I started thinking about the whole universe. I'm like, this destroys all the canon
Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't work. I'm like, I never want to hear their names or see them around any of the other characters
Mm-hmm.
because it's going to take away all the intensity. Because if anything happens, I'm like, it's just going to reset. It's going to reset again, and they're going to be able to fix it after going through it like 15 different times.
Exactly. Exactly. And we already know that's not what the Walking Dead universe is about. You know what
Right.
I mean? So now to get there and see this, I was just like for me, I didn't think the episode was bad. I took it for what
Hmm.
it was, right? I took it as a set. Once that shit started happening, I totally disassociated it from the actual Walking Dead universe. I'm saying, no, I can't do that. Because if you start doing that, then you start to ask stupid questions and you start to say, well, okay, well, this happened in this, so can this happen in the real Walking Dead
Right.
show now? You know what I mean? So I tried to separate it from that. So as its own episode, I didn't hate it, but like you, I
Hmm.
didn't really care for the characters either. I'm just like, okay, one's this fucking the fucking stereotypic bad boss type, and the other one
Right.
is
Yeah,
the
the Blair
you know
chick. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. You know what I mean? So I was just I was just like, I'm not really feeling this episode. I mean, it just takes you out of what we're used to seeing in The Walking Dead. So for me, you go from that first episode, which was fire, to this one, and I'm just like, it
It,
doesn't
it
fit.
right. It's uneven and it's sloppy because it's like between because you essentially just have two characters of importance, which is the Gina, like she's like the quiet, like I'm just gonna do my job, not say much, and hopefully
Hmm.
I can go home early, which was everybody else's sentiment in that circle of trust,
Right.
that establishment. And then Blair, like you said, just that boss where you just if somebody shoots this shit up or somebody punches you in your face, it would make sense because you're disregarding other people's emotions, and it's like you're better than them. You're not caring about them as human beings, and that can and will cause problems if the wrong person is working there or it's just the wrong day. Maybe it's just a
Hmm.
collection of events and you just push them over that threshold because you just didn't see all the signs because you don't care about anybody but yourself and I guess how much money and clients you bring in and stuff like that. Um,
Absolutely.
so between Gina and Blair, I was like, well, Gina, I don't like her because she doesn't have a personality. It's like I understand why she don't like her boss, but it's basic. I'm like, okay, I don't really care. And then Gina, or Blair rather, the boss, she's a bitch. So
Yeah.
I was like, I don't care about her. So
Hmm.
as they both were getting snapped up and it was going through the loops, I'm like, why do I care about this? It doesn't mean anything. I don't see them in the larger scheme of things. It wouldn't make sense. So you present it like what I call a fluff piece. It doesn't match. Like
Hmm.
the episode objectively is okay, and it's like if it were on its own, then it might be intriguing in the sense of like, okay, you got Final Destination, Groundhog Day, but with zombies, and then of course you make it put more zombies in it and make it crazier. You could have something there, but it's just because you placed it in the context of the Walking Dead universe, it doesn't work and it feels random. And it's like you came up with that to try to keep the universe going, but in a way, it's kind of insulting and taking away from what you already established.
I agree 100%. And then this also episode kind of gives me pause to say, okay, well, if they can do this in one episode, what are they going to do in future episodes? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Are we going to get
Yep.
something where they're like flying in space or aliens are coming down and fighting the zombies
Right.
now? Right? Because you do something
Right.
like this, it opens it up for you to just say, okay, let's do whatever we want to. Right? And then
Right.
I guess certain episodes can be considered part of the universe, and certain episodes are just you could brush them away as being nothing burgers, basically.
Right.
You
And the
know?
problem is like even if someone wants to, say brush away an episode because it exists, it then it will create these conversations and stuff, and it's just like then you can have individuals now they can go back to older stuff like, oh, remember? So that's why
Hmm.
that didn't happen. Maybe he flew away or maybe he teleported,
Hmm.
just like all this stuff that we don't need to be talking about. I'm like, you don't, the Walking Dead universe is not Resident Evil. You don't have,
Right.
and specifically the Resident Evil where they changed stuff with the movies where Alice had all these superpowers and stuff.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
that's not the Walking Dead. It's like you have humans that they have reasonable strength and intelligence, and you have your exceptions within the human species, but it doesn't go into the realms of powers and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. Next episode, one of them could have powers, you know? That's what I'm saying. Like, once you do this,
You
you're
come back
opening it
as
up
the
for
time.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
opening up for all kinds of stupidness now. And
Hmm.
that's not the stuff I want to see in Walking Dead. You know what I mean? This episode would have been
Right.
so much better if it was just the two of them, maybe going on a mission and you see their character development. Maybe the one that's always quiet ends up becoming a badass or something, and the
Right.
bitch ends up not being a bitch anymore, helping
Right.
people, whatever, something like that. But now you
Right.
putting this other stuff in it, and I was just like, I'm not
Cause
feeling that.
Because I mean, even what you said is infinitely better than what we got. Because at least with what you said, there's the potential for character growth. There's a literal journey, and even like if they would have had the quiet chick like in her mind, if she pictured how something would go and then it didn't. But that's not like a premonition. That's more like, oh shit, yeah, we can't do that. It's a bad idea. And all that would do would let us know as an audience, like, okay, she's strategic. Like, hey, if we go this way, we might get chewed up by the zombies, and it kind of can add a comedic element. And I'm like, oh, she's really good at strategizing. And you can
Yeah.
still have a slice of that kind of cake, but it doesn't venture into like literal powers and premonitions. This is all in the person's head, but that's how they strategize. It's been done before in other zombie based stuff, specifically like Zombieland, like when they do their
Mm-hmm.
narrations, like you do this shit, you're gonna get snapped up. This is
Mm-hmm.
dumb, don't do that. You could have did something intelligent like that, and that would have been new and it would have worked because it doesn't break the rules of the universe. Just like
Exactly.
when you and me were talking about, because I like talking to you because you're honest about stuff. So that's one of a lot of many great qualities I like about you. But like even when we were talking about Moon Knight, for example, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, when you break your rules, it just no, that doesn't make any sense and it's stupid. I'm like, you don't get to establish something and go, oh, we're gonna conveniently throw it out so that way we can play out this scenario, because then you take away the tension. There's no
Mm-hmm.
point in anything because now you just let me know that I don't have to adhere to the rules you set up. If you tell
Absolutely.
me the characters can't get near fire and then the characters get near fire and then he's fine, I'm like, well, why did you do that then? What was the point of that? It means nothing now.
Mm-hmm. And you're doing it just for plot convenience or some plot point, and you
Right,
it's like, well, why did you even write that in there if you planned to do it that way?
right,
And
right,
that's exactly what I say about this episode. I'm just like, okay, I don't want to I want to see I don't mind seeing different stories, right, of
right.
different people and how
Yeah, me
they
too.
handled the apocalypse. That's how they should have handled it. And
Hmm.
then if they ever wanted to make a spin-off or something, you could do it with some of these characters that people actually liked. You know what I mean? Like the first one, Terry Crews and that girl. I wouldn't
Yeah,
mind seeing more of them. I wouldn't mind if they ended up meeting up with Morgan or eating up with, well, we can't say Rick's crew anymore because that's gonna be ending. But
right,
even on Beyond the Walking Dead, or yeah, Beyond the Walking Dead, if they met up with that group, you could have done stuff like that. You cannot take these two characters and you cannot bring them into any of those shows, because if you do that, you're fucking up the rules of the show.
right. Because then, like like how you've been saying, I've been saying, it's just because if you put them with anyone else, it doesn't even matter who and how you mesh them. It's just the problem of like what they can do.
Hmm.
Because of what they can do, it just you can't have compelling storytelling. It's impossible because then for anyone that knows those two characters, like obviously if someone hadn't seen it, to them they would just think, okay, these are just two women until they get surprised by what they can do. But for individuals like you and me that have seen it, as soon as we see them, we're like, okay, well, I need to stop caring because it ain't gonna matter. Like say Daryl, I don't know, they meet up with Daryl and then he gets, I don't know, he gets killed or something and everybody's freaking out like, "Oh my God, they just killed Daryl!" And then you and me are like, "Nah, it's gonna be a premonition. Daryl will be fine.
Hmm.
Daryl will probably die a lot, and that might be surprising, but we know that by the end of that episode or by the end of that arc, Daryl will be fine because they will just let him know like they got these special visions and they can, look out for him and others if they want to." And I'm like, okay, well then, what is the point of the show? Because there's no stakes. Because even in
Absolutely.
the context of Final Destination, usually the one with the premonition, they always end up dying in those movies, and then a bunch of other individuals die too, and it doesn't
Hmm.
get reversed, right? So it's like
Right.
even within the context of those, there are stakes because you're like, technically speaking, death is the villain. Like you remember like how like somebody could get, the water would come out the sink, you slip on it, and
Hmm.
then the shower
Hmm.
thing wraps around your neck and it kills you. The water
Right.
goes back into the sink like nothing happened. It's like death is actually having a mind of its own and it's purposefully like snapping individuals up. But then they let you know, okay, it's not going to be okay. If anything, it's a curse to have these visions and premonitions because you are seeing these things unfold. And for the most part, you can't stop it because you have this whole process where it skips over someone. Like it was supposed to go to you, but then we stopped it. But then it goes to me, and then it circles back around. And even when
Mm-hmm.
you thought you beat it, like in the first movie, it just circled back around. It just takes some time because you've outsmarted death. But I'm like, those were the stakes in those. But in this case, it just seemed like they were going to be fine no matter what. I didn't think that they were going to die because they just kept coming back.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to say this real quick. Remember last week we were talking about the scene where the girl ended up fighting and Terry was like, "Oh, you can fight," and I was like, "Yeah, that would be exactly how Terrence would act if he found a girl
Yep,
like that."
yep, yep, yep.
Well, I think I found it. I was on Twitter the other day, and I seen this, and I was like, "Okay, there we go. That's her." Can you see it, Terrence?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I have her on my channel, like in the martial arts section. Yep.
I was like, "Yeah, that's it."
Yep, yep.
Let
Yo,
let let
that's funny.
Terrence
Yep.
has it on his channel, so you already seen it. You know what I mean? He's like, "Oh shit, there she is." If
That
that
is
were the
cool as
case,
fuck. Yeah.
if that were the case, they're in apocalypse and you're with her and she pulled out that knife and did that. Oh yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it would be over.
Yeah, it would definitely be over, man. Like, because when I first saw her, I was like, yep, she going on the channel. Yep, amen. Yep, upload. Yep, yep, yep. Yep, because it's just she's great. Especially with that blade. I'm like, that's amazing. I'm like, you could definitely show me stuff with swords because I ain't done no sword training and none of that. So I'm like, that's cool.
Mhm.
Like you doing all these corkscrew spin flips and stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah,
Oh,
that'd be
K-Dot
pretty
said
fun to learn.
that's Vixen for DC. That's what she is. She's playing Vixen.
I don't know if she's been casted, but I think he might be talking about like that's who would be a perfect vixen. I
Oh
agree if that's what he's saying.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. It would be. Yeah, man. So, what did you like about this episode? Was there anything you liked about it?
let me think. Well, I guess I could say I like how I was trying to figure out where they were going with it. Like at least I wasn't bored, but it was just I guess maybe that. It was just like where are they going with this? And then you get
Hmm.
past the commercials and I was like, I'm curious to see how this ends because even though it very much seems like they're pulling from Groundhog Day and Final Destination, they're also doing more with it to where they
Hmm.
just keep surviving. Because remember, like as I was mentioning, the main character in each Final Destination movie, the one that has the premonitions, they don't keep going through the death over and over. They
Right.
show you like once or twice, and then that's it. And then you had a main character like, no, don't. Remember the number two, the freeway, and then the first movie with the plane and all that, and the third movie, the roller coaster. Remember, like
Hmm.
they have their little vision, and then they try to go, no, don't get on there, and everybody thinks they're crazy, and then a bunch of shit happens, and then maybe some individuals don't get on the plane, don't go on the freeway, or they stop and talk to the person with the visions and they avoid the accident. And the rest of the movie is about how they get snapped up and how it circles back around. So, because those characters seem to have an unlimited amount of like, we're going to die and we get to try everything we're thinking of and still be fine and then think of something else, I didn't know the full extent of what that was supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Because
First off,
imagine thinking like, what, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say Tony Robbins said in the last episode that woman was so delusional she just couldn't believe that Terry Crews just wanted to clap her cheeks. I don't know. Oh, the second one. Yeah, yeah. He that's all he wanted to do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the last one, he said Terrence, she would be a dope mentor for a Ranger team.
Oh, absolutely. What like okay, so real quick on that. When it comes to because I've seen, let's see, what, 17 some odd seasons of Power Rangers, right? And I'm behind. There's like fucking
Hmm.
40 seasons or some shit. It's funny how I like was behind and then I caught up and then I stopped and then I fell behind by like a dozen seasons. Like it's crazy how long that universe is. But to the point of that, when I think of the best Power Ranger in that universe in terms of the number of Rangers that he's been and everything that he's done and how consistent it is, is Tommy, the one that started as the Green Ranger, and his fighting skills are amazing. So to me, she would be on a Tommy type level from a fighting aspect. You know what I mean? She could more or less be the female Tommy, which is cool because just with that, I'm like, yeah, she would act as like a leader or a mentor, like a Dulcia from the Power Rangers movie or a Zordon or somebody like that, and it would make sense because of her ability. I would not be against that at all.
Got you. Okay, that's the last season I watched was Beast Morphers, and
Um,
T is
I
on season 29. What, Power
see.
Rangers?
Yes, yeah, I'm telling you, Anzo, that shit is long as fuck. Like, cause remember, Anzo, like, the thing is, like, when
Bro,
I was a kid, I
who
was
the fuck's still
watching
watching Power Rangers?
a lot. Anzo, they got a Morphicon, which is a Power Rangers convention that takes place every year. I kid you not. I've never been to one, but that shit looks fun though. Like, because when I was a kid, Anzo, like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers started. I'm pretty sure you remember that kind of hype, and it was like overnight it turned into this global phenomenon. So I was watching
Listen,
that.
I was getting pussy when Power Rangers started, so I
Hey,
wasn't
hey, no,
watching no damn Power
no,
Rangers.
no, I'm not saying I'm not saying you were watching, but I know like it kind of it blipped, like you were aware of the, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
morphin time and all, yeah. So
Hmm.
you know, so yeah, I had all the toys and all that shit, and then they had like Power Rangers Turbo and Zeo. I stopped after Zeo, like around that time. And then
Hmm.
over the years, I was going through high school and different stuff. I noticed all these different shows were popping up, like Wild Force and all these different ones. And I was like, what the fuck? And Power Rangers and space and all this stuff. And I was like, I thought it was all random, right? Come to find out, Anzo, many, many years later after the fact, they had this episode called Forever Red, right? And
Hmm.
it had 10 Red Rangers in there. And I saw my boy Tommy, my boy Jason from the original series, and I was like, what the fuck? So and then some of them knew each other and there was like an awareness, and I just was like, you mean to tell me that all those different random series that I heard about, they weren't random, that they were just other teams within that universe? So at that point, I went back to the beginning and worked my way up to that so I can have an understanding of what was going on. I felt compelled to watch it. But if I would have never seen that 10 Red Ranger kind of stuff, I probably wouldn't have did it to that extent. And then I ended
Hmm.
up stopping on Power Rangers RPM. So if I ever venture back to it, I would have to restart that particular season because I don't really remember that one that well. But I was like, there's so much of that shit, Anzo, and it's not random. It's just a giant universe.
I bet you K-Dot's still watching Power Rangers. I know he
Oh
said
yeah,
he
absolutely.
last new season I watched was Beast Morphers. I don't know when that came out, but I'm pretty sure he's still watching Power Rangers. Oh my god. Unless
Man,
unless they update the fighting and make it look like it's like, I'll even say like the kind of like the movie, even though the movie was trash. At least it was updated and it didn't look like fucking people flying on ropes and shit. Then maybe I'll check it out. But other than that, I ain't watching
that's what I'm saying. Like, cause like when it came to Tommy, right? Like when he was introduced, we'll get back to the dead, but just cause they
it.
got me on Power Ranger now. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah.
but when it comes to Tommy, he was my favorite. Like when he was introduced, Anzo, it was just this whole thing because it was just the five of them, right? The five
Hmm.
Rangers and stuff. And then I remember the fucking commercials, man. Like, oh, the next week on Power Rangers, and then you just see the guy wearing the green and he was doing the jump spinning heel kicks, and I was like, holy shit. And this dude was really fighting like that. He wasn't on no wires or nothing. I was like, that looks amazing. So I ran home after school and shit, and then the first thing was him fighting Jason, the leader of the Power Ranger, Red Ranger, and they had a martial arts tournament, and it ended with them being even. They had like the same skill level, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, so he's a problem. And then they had this whole segment where he was evil, and then they had to fight him, and then he ended up joining the team. and we had these arguments at school about which ranger was the best, the red one or the green one. Then my boy became the white ranger. It's a whole history. It's a whole history.
Sitting around arguing about which ranger is the best. Holy moly! K-Dot said, "Nah,
Absolutely.
I haven't been consistent with new seasons. I'm not a fan of some of these some of the cast in these new Ranger shows. The last show I
Yeah.
watched
Yeah.
was watch in full was Power Rangers Samurai. Wow. See all these names, you guys
I
like Power Ranger Samurai, Power Ranger Morphin. I'm like, no idea what you're talking about. I didn't even know what the fuck um Tony was talking about when he said Ranger Team. I wasn't even thinking fucking Power Rangers.
Anzo, I'm telling you, like, it's because like I feel like a lot of individuals they know the whole Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, the original team, you know, Zach the Black Ranger and stuff. They know that, but
Mm-hmm,
when it
mm-hmm,
comes to all the other 20 some odd teams, not so much. Because just like with me, I had an awareness. Remember, like, you know, I see a commercial or something, I'm like, oh shit, it's still going. But then I was like, no, it's random. They rebooted it. I thought they were reboots, and I used to be like an old school fan of that. So if I had that experience thinking that, obviously somebody that wasn't diving into it, they would think the same thing. Like it's just a
mm-hmm.
bunch of random different reboots and teams, but it's not. It's all thought out and they know each other and certain characters are better. And sometimes, Anzo, they have these mega team ups. It'd be like 10 Rangers, 15 Rangers at a time, and then they had one where it was like it was more than 100 fucking Rangers. It looked like a bag of Skittles, Anzo. Like it was so many colors, and they were like, I had to rewind. I didn't get to that season, Anzo, but like it was like some years ago, and I had seen a random clip of it, and I was saying to myself, based on my experience with that shit, I was like, what could have warranted over 100 Power Rangers? I'm like, this must be a global threat. Like, there's got to be millions of monsters or something because usually 5 or 6 of them would be enough. So I'm like, you got more than 100. So I was just kind of curious as to who they were fighting, as to why that many of them would need to be there at once. Like, that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I'll pass on the Power Rangers, guys.
Yeah,
I'll
no, no,
pass on
I know you're not into this kind of stuff, but man, they got me. I'm just getting all these flashbacks and stuff, but you know, I always like it in my heart and stuff, and I may venture back around to where I left off just because there's so much of it. You know, there might be another, you know, Forever Red type episode, and I was just like, also just to see them as they morph and they all have their own unique poses. Like if there's anybody in the world that can do every single pose of every single ranger, I would be impressed because that shit gets real technical and complicated. Like I have a difficult time memorizing 10 of them, let alone like more than 100. Like so if somebody could do that, I would high five you because that shit is complicated. I would imagine that as they were shooting those episodes, they messed up on them poses a bunch of times because sometimes they got to do it in sync too, Anzo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Anzo, real
So
quick before we go back to the dead,
yeah,
real quick. So say if you found out like okay, like I'm gonna be like a Power Ranger, I'm gonna be like a main character and stuff. Do you feel like you'd be like, damn, did you have to get like a Ranger gig, or do you feel like you would be happy and then you kind of give it a shot because I'm like the main Ranger? Like how you feel?
well, first off, let me say this as I'm looking here. No, I ain't giving no Power Rangers a shot. But so the first Power Rangers, right? Season
Mhm,
1 was in 1994. I
mhm,
was
mhm, mhm.
20 years old.
Right,
I'm
right.
just saying, I was 20 years old, right?
I
So there
was
was
7.
no
Yep.
way I was watching Power Rangers. By that time, I was clubbing, I was checking for girls, and
Right.
that shit was corny as shit for a 20-year-old, to be honest
Oh,
with
oh,
you.
oh, to be fair though, right? I was 7, right? So I was a literal kid, right? So
Hmm, hmm.
you know, naturally, you know, just the whole like the theme was banging. That the intro and stuff with it, just the Ragers and the Zordon was talking. That was all the fucking hype, and I couldn't wait to hear that intro and then the guitar and shit and then the go Power Ranger. Anzo, you should have seen me as a kid. I was fucking kicking and flipping and doing. Like I was hurting myself trying to mimic like them different poses and shit. My family was like, Terrence, you better calm your ass down. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, oh, the Power Rangers on. And then the little putties, like, woo, they would like show up and shit. And then they'd hit them and then they would blow up and break apart. Like, man, I would just get like the stuffed animals, be kicking them across the room and shit, talking about this morphing time. Like I was all over that, man.
K-Dots like Anzo was missing out. No, I wasn't missing out because I was banging at the time. I was hitting skins. You know what I mean? I was banging poom poom at the time. So if I had to choose between Power Rangers and some poom poom, it's poom poom all day, every day.
Okay, so what about if the girl that say you were messing with a girl and then she was into the Power Rangers, she was like, okay, just need to watch the episode. Do you feel like that would
I
turn you off?
I'd have to ask myself if I want to hit this poom poom ever again. Because you want
So even if she looked bad and she was just like to 20 minutes, just let me watch this new episode, like you would just
at
leave
at
and
at 20 years old watching that, yeah, I'd have to question the mentality over there.
let me tell you something, Monzo. If she said that to me, right, I'd be like, hey, about 20 minutes it is. I'll be morphing with her. Then we can morph out of the clothes when the episode is done. It's all good.
But I will agree that Tony said T Hasbro and Netflix need to hurry up. I'm guessing with a remake for it. If they do something that's more kind of adult orientated, then maybe it doesn't even have to be really more or adult orientated. Just something that, you know, we get some good looking fights. You know what I mean? Then I'll be more interested in watching it. Maybe.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Anzo, right? When it comes to the Power Rangers, there are good fights within it, but it's like you have to understand too that the Rangers themselves are exceptional in the suit and out of the suit, but they need the suit so they don't die because their opponents tend to have weapons and laser beams and different shit. You ain't trying to get shot up with that without your suit, right? You ain't trying to be caught outside your suit, which is
Hmm.
normally what happens, which is where the iconic it's morphin time comes from. You only can do that for so long. You need the power of the Power Ranger suit. So when you look at the different fights, it's like someone like me, I guess, would be able to point you to where you get more realistic fights, and then some of them look better than others, but a lot of it will be the tone of what the show is. So you just kind of have to take it
But
with a grain of salt. But
here's another thing. What's the one thing we always say about Apocalypse in that fucking horrible X-Men movie? What's the one thing we say about Apocalypse?
he looks like Ivan Ooze.
Like a Power Ranger. Yes. That's not a good thing. That is
Okay,
not a
well,
good thing.
okay. To be fair though, right? Ivan Ooze is a better villain than that Apocalypse. I'm telling you right now. Like my boy. Okay, so context, right? Now I'm not saying the Power Rangers movie is great, none of that stuff. I
Yeah,
found it
yeah, yeah, yeah.
entertaining, but in the context, just keep it in the context of that universe and what he did, right? Because in the movie itself, when he shows up, he takes out the two main villains that we were used to seeing in all those seasons of Power Rangers. He made them look like children, so he put them in a snow globe and he took over their kingdom, right? And then this motherfucker went to the command center, right? Secret base of the Rangers, blah, blah, blah. And you're not supposed to be able to just walk up in there. They got all these security measures. You get disintegrated. It's much more realistic for you to be able to examine it from a great distance as opposed to walking up in the base, right? So this dude walked up in the base, disabled the security systems. He fucked up Alpha, which is the droid that serves Zordon, and then Zordon is the one that gave the Rangers their powers, right? He
Hmm.
could teleport them and send them wherever he wants. They created the Megazords, the giant robots they can get into to fight the monsters. So he's clearly very powerful. And Ivan Ooze just disabled his ass and then rendered him powerless to the point to where if the Power Rangers didn't find a new power source, he'd be dead as fuck by the end of the movie. So at the beginning of the movie, Anzo, this man defeated multiple villains and he destroyed the command center, took away the Power Rangers' powers, and fucked up Zordon.
Okay.
So just off of the basis of a villain, he was pretty good for what he was able to do in that short amount of time. I was just trying to provide context, not so much that he's one of the greatest villains of all time. I'm just talking strictly within the confines of their universe, that the stuff that he was able to pull off was unheard of at the time of Power Rangers. The villains just couldn't do that. The show was about them trying to do it, but they never succeeded to that degree, and especially so quickly. So that established him as this great, powerful villain, and it made sense for us to believe that the Rangers were in danger because they had to go to a literal different planet, Planet Phaedos. I know you probably like, Dennis fool, remember the name of the planet and everything. So they had a Planet Phaedos. They had to go to a whole other planet, Anzo, to meet this badass chick named Dulcia. Man, she was badass. Like she whooped up on his little minions and stuff, had them flying away, and then she gave them ninjetti powers, which she gave them like they ninja outfits, and they had temporary powers. And then she told them, you got to go to this sacred temple to get your armored Power Ranger look that we were used to, where they could take like lasers and shit like that. And they had to fight these rock monsters, and then they got their powers. So I was like, this villain, I was like, even if he loses, which he did by the end of the movie, he had already done everything, Anzo. He defeated the main villains. He defeated the Power Rangers because he took away their powers, and he defeated their leader in less than 30 minutes. So you see what I'm saying? Like how, to me, that's better than Apocalypse because of what he did in the context of his own universe. Like, because Apocalypse didn't do shit. You know what I mean? So
yeah, Apocalypse was garbage, but Tony Robinson is absolutely right. Tony said Anzo's like, fuck Power Rangers. I want to see some fat asses. Exactly. So if I was with a chick and she was like, let me watch this Power Rangers shit first, and I'm like, wait, you're gonna stop me from getting some ass to watch a fucking Power Ranger show?
Oh no. That's not the part I meant. I just meant like, you came over and then she was about to watch it, and then that's what I mean. I don't mean like, it's about to go down and she's like, up, it's 2:30, it's time for Power. Like, no.
And Triple X said Terrence is speaking my language. Hey, I'm happy for you guys because he's speaking fucking Chinese to me. I ain't gonna lie.
Right. But as you know, I know what's up, because it's like I fell off of it for a reason, because the stuff that I wanted to see happen and I lost interest. Now remember, I had to get back into it. So you're talking about many years later that I happened to see something that piqued my interest again. And it took something unusual, which is 10 Red Rangers. I'm like, since when do you have 10 red Power Rangers? Usually it's just one of each color. So that was, Chinese to me, and I had to get to the bottom of that shit. But anyway, let's go back to the dig. We Power Rangers.
It's all good. It's all good. I think we basically talked about most of the shit we hated. I think there's a lot of shit in this episode that we hated. There's not too much we liked. I mean, for me, I guess I could say if I take it out of being in the context of The Walking Dead, then it's not that bad of an episode. I kind of liked some of the deaths. You know what I mean? When she's driving in the truck and they're fighting, she kills the girl, and then next thing you know, the girl jumps up as a zombie and bites her and shit. You know what I mean? Some of those things were kind of funny and cool, but other than that, as like a episode in a whole, it just didn't work for me.
Yeah, it was like, because it's a Walking Dead based episode, I was like, this is bad because it doesn't make sense.
Right.
But as its own thing, is just okay. It's fine, but it's in the wrong context, because no matter what anyone tells us, we have to consider it for its context. It's in that universe. I'm like, you can't say we can't think of it like that when you're letting us know that it's an anthology series with characters that exist in the same universe. Like, what am I supposed to do?
Absolutely.
So it's like I wasn't bored because I was trying to figure out what was going on, but it was like, what? I was waiting, like, is this supposed to be like you get to the end and somebody was just having a dream the whole time? No, but okay, well, so you wasted 40 minutes, somebody was just asleep. But it didn't seem like that because it was going on too long, right? Because then I was thinking, okay, let's say the Gina chick, the quiet one, she was just having a dream, and I don't know, I guess she was trying to imagine a more fantastical life. Okay, I guess I can understand that. But if it ends with that, I would just be asking, well, what's the point of her character? She just had a dream. Like, what is that? What does that even mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And it like I said, it just goes against everything we've seen in The Walking Dead, right? And we've had 11 years of The Walking Dead. We've had maybe
Yeah.
what, 7 or 8 of fucking Fear the Walking Dead. Now we
Yep.
have The Walking Dead Beyond, and nothing
Hmm.
we've ever seen in any of these shows like even comes close to what we see in this episode.
Right.
So it's weird. It takes you out of it, you know? It doesn't feel like you're watching a Walking Dead show when you watch this episode. That's the problem with it.
And that's real quick, just because what you said makes perfect sense. Like the feeling, like what you come to expect from what is established, right? To
Mhm.
kind of to circle back around, like when you talk about Power Rangers, it's like I don't mind you doing something different, but it shouldn't be to the degree that it's unrecognizable as its IP,
I
right? So
agree.
you want to keep the foundation, but you can improve upon it or make tweaks that complement it. So to
Mhm.
me, this particular episode is too much of a change to where it doesn't complement, it just confuses, if that makes sense.
I agree 100%. Triple X asks, is The Walking Dead Beyond still going? Yes, it is still going. I think they're going on season 3 now or 4.
I think it's done because that was
Oh, is
supposed to
it?
be yeah, it was supposed to be just a mini series, just the 2 seasons.
Oh shit. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So I got to go back and watch it then cuz I didn't finish season 2
Yeah, yeah, cause
and
yeah,
mhm. No, go
yeah,
ahead.
cause when season one dropped, when I was looking up the stuff at the time, it was just like mini series. I was like, oh, I guess just one season. But then they're like, at that point, I guess the second season was 6, 7 months out, and they're just like, tune in for the final season of Beyond, and then that's when they started introducing those other characters. Remember, the chick from
Mhm.
the junkyard and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like that's when it became more relevant in that second season.
Mhm.
Because first season I
Yeah.
was like, eh. And then it
Mhm.
started getting more interesting in like the last two. I was like, oh, okay. And then season two was coming. I was like, well, I'm like, where's the tie-in stuff? I'm like, okay, like you kind of made those characters slightly more interesting towards the end, the bigger guy in particular. But I
Mhm.
was like, what does this mean? Like then the Jadis, right? When she comes in, then
Mhm.
it's just like, oh, I see. And then the organization, all those like, okay, I get it now. But see, you have to get to that second season to get to that. So because of the
Absolutely.
way it starts, so many individuals fell off. And I
Mhm.
understand because there's no way that you would think that it would get to what you get in season two. There's no indication of that. How are you supposed to know?
hmm That's exactly
So
what happened
yeah,
to me. I fell off in season 1. I was like, I'm not really feeling this one. You know what I mean? But
right,
then when you told me about season 2, I went back and I watched some of it, and I was like, oh shit, okay. So now I'm gonna go back.
right,
I'm gonna watch season 1, and then I'm gonna finish up season 2 because I'm like,
right.
okay, now that there's some sort of connection, I feel like
Hmm.
okay, now I can watch it because you're gonna see maybe some Easter eggs or some shit that you didn't see, some hints
Absolutely.
or clues,
Hmm.
so I'm gonna be like, okay, that's interesting now. So now I can go
Right.
back and watch.
And Jadis, like I love how they use her character. Like she's pretty intriguing. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
just I don't know, whenever she like interacts with anyone, it always seems like she has like a second and a third motive. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
fully trust her all the time. And then sometimes she's being honest, but then you have to wait till like certain things plow you like, oh, she was telling the truth. But it's like because I don't know, that's what makes her character intriguing. On my eyes, she's lying. No, she's telling the truth. Nope, she's telling the truth. Nope, she's lying. It just kind of goes back and forth. And then it's just, there's a whole point to when you get to the end, when things become full circle and you understand why Jadis has those type of leadership skills and why she has strategies and stuff like that. And you're just
Mm-hmm.
like, it makes sense. I see why she was able to have her own group. I see why she's a survivor, just all those things. I'm like, that's cool that you did that. But the problem is when you present a new show or new movie, whatever it is, if you fail to capture people's attention right away, to me that is
Mm-hmm.
a mistake. You cannot be like, oh,
Absolutely.
in the fourth movie, or oh, in the second season, or towards the end. I'm like, you're not gonna have a lot of humans that are going to be willing to deal with that. You've already lost them. Why should they come back later just because you're like, see, we were building up to this? You can build up to stuff, but you have to have other stuff in the meantime. You can't just leave them hanging.
I agree. 100%. 100%. And that's why I feel more interested in watching Beyond, because I feel like there's a little bit of a connection there now. You know what I mean? But before that, and
Right.
even with Fear, I liked Fear the Walking Dead, right? But at
Hmm.
first there was really not much of a connection. And I was like,
Right.
I like it, but I wasn't as invested until they started to show that there was a big connection between that and The Walking Dead, and then I was like, okay, now I'm like really invested, because I think even if you're gonna do
Yeah,
these,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, no, no. Go ahead. No, I was just agreeing with you.
No, I was just gonna say, I think that when you're doing like these spin-off shows, that you need to connect them in some sort of way. That's all.
Right. I agree, and um, I think I'm right there with you, because like when I first started it, because when it was new, right, it was like, oh, there's more Walking Dead stuff, right? So
Hmm.
that was like what, 7 years ago or something. Like it
Yeah.
was a while back when you still had, I would say, most of the fan base. Like it was still on the up and ups. Like it was still the shit, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So because of that, it was like, oh shoot, more Walking Dead. Absolutely. When does it come on? You watch it and you're like, okay, this is fine. Like I wouldn't say it's on the same level, but this is cool. It's more material. You never know what it could turn into, and then it's progressing, and you're like, okay, like cool. Got some characters here and stuff. But then I feel like it didn't really pop off to the degree where it was like, oh, until Morgan got there. When Morgan
Hmm.
got there, I feel that's when it really started popping off. Like I don't know if you agree with that, but to me,
I do agree, but I did like Madison. I did like her. I think
right,
one of
right,
the
yeah.
biggest mistakes they did was killing her husband. I didn't like that part when they killed him at the beginning of
Yeah,
season two. That I didn't
yeah,
like.
cause
I liked his
yeah,
character too.
yeah.
You know.
To be honest, like I was actually feeling this character more than Madison, like because
Me
Madison,
too.
like she was
Me too.
good, like, and I didn't have no issues with her, but it was like the husband, I was like that dude is cool. I want to see him,
Yeah.
cross over and stuff. So when he went, I was like, oh man, all right, like so I
Yeah.
still
Me
had
too.
my boy Nick, and then we saw what happened to him. I was like, you know what? They tested
Hmm.
my patience. I was like,
Hmm.
so then you get to when Morgan crossed over. I still remember it was a big reaction. It was like, wait, but Morgan from Walking
Hmm.
Dead, because his character's evolution is one of the best in that universe. It's
I agree.
amazing, just
Yeah.
from how he was, him trying to reach Rick, and then we found out Rick was leaving him the messages. He was talking to
Hmm.
him on the walkie-talkie, and then the sad part was the walkie-talkie wasn't working, right?
Yeah.
So then it
Hmm.
made us think about all the times that Rick was trying and Morgan had no idea. That was the part
Hmm.
that was sad, and that Rick
Yeah.
had no idea. So we saw
Hmm.
Rick's reaction, like his face, like the way Andrew Lincoln did that. I was like, they're
Hmm.
trying to make me cry, because I just the realization from him and the audience, it was almost simultaneous. He was just like, you you mean to tell me that you didn't hear and see none of that, right? And then we see that he's just out of his mind, and then he was kind of
Hmm.
picking up the walkie-talkie, and he felt betrayed, but we knew that that wasn't what it was, but it seemed like it was too late. And I was like, that
Right.
was the saddest thing, because that couldn't have been further from the truth. And then we
Hmm.
thought that was pretty much it, and it seemed like he was going to kill himself and stuff like that. And I was like, man, that really sucks. Like I wanted
Hmm.
him to. I kept thinking, like, for multiple seasons, man, he gonna meet up with Rick. It's gonna be okay. And I was waiting for that too. They're gonna be friends and all that. And he got the group, and it just was like, man,
It
what?
took a long time for them to bring Morgan back. I think they
Right,
did like 4 or 5 seasons before they actually
right,
brought him back, you know? I was like,
right,
damn, man. But it was good
right,
because they brought him back. He runs his own show now, so I'm happy with that.
right. And then, because then another thing happened, right? So you're like, okay, we're not gonna see him again. But then he had that like long. It was like a movie. Remember where he was like
Mm-hmm.
with that dude and he was a
Yeah.
martial artist and he had the staff and
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Yeah.
And that episode literally boosted the ratings for The Walking Dead because
Mm-hmm.
it was already high, but something must have happened like when it aired, and then humans were like, "Yo, you got to turn this on." So
Mm-hmm.
that's what happened. Something like that because the usually when something premieres, you have the set viewers, right? And then you get a couple that'll trickle in, like maybe they running late or something. But for
Mm-hmm.
it to have a boost, that has to be through word of mouth. That's the only way that you can get a boost to that degree.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it was amazing. And then we had that whole segment where he was leaving, right? He was going off and doing his own thing. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
man, I was like, stop doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then,
Yeah,
so,
for
and
real.
then something else amazing happened. Now he's on fear, and it's like, oh shit. So now I was okay, maybe he'll be here for a little while and he'll go off. But he stayed, he was building a group, he became a leader. And I feel like that evolution, there's there's no way that you would think that that would happen when you first see his character in Walking
Mm-hmm.
Dead all those seasons ago to see where he is now is absolutely incredible.
Absolutely. 100%. He lost his kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
He was on the
lost his
verge of
wife.
killing himself, his wife, and everything.
Hmm.
So I agree with you. I think his progression in the series, I think him and maybe Daryl have
Hmm.
the best progressions in the whole show, to be honest with you.
I
No,
I
no, I
agree.
can't really say that because Carol's is good too. Carol's
It
is
it,
good
it, it
too.
is. It is, but I still like if you okay like with Carol, right? Because she went to from the like being abused by the
Mm-hmm.
husband and all that to becoming a badass. But see,
Mm-hmm.
once that happened, she stayed within that
Yeah.
badassery, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Morgan, there were so many dips and stuff. He had
Mm-hmm.
lost a wife, lost a son. He was waiting on his friend. Stuff happened. Then he went insane, and then he had to come out of his insanity, being trained by a martial arts master. And he's like, okay, now I
Mm-hmm.
got a new friend, new family. He lost him. Then he went
Mm-hmm.
back to Rick and them. Then he left and then he
Yeah.
established his own group and then you had all the crazy stuff with Strand. It just there's so many
Yeah.
different dips in his roller coaster to where I feel that when you look at all of the characters, he must be the best progressed character in terms of everything that he's
I
been
agree.
through and where he is
Yeah, I agree.
now.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you 100%. He's up there with one of the best. He's up there as one of the best, 100% sure. You know what I
Yep.
mean? He went through a lot,
Yeah.
and now he's running thing. I think there was one point where I was kind of getting angry with him, and I think it was with the time where he didn't want to fight. You know what I mean?
See, I forgot to
Yeah,
mention that. That's another that's another one of his
yeah,
journeys. I don't want to
hmm
hurt people. Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like,
Hmm.
motherfucker, fight. You know what I mean? Like, come on, Morgan. Like, honestly, you do some badass shit. And then he ended up having to fight when the kid died. And I was like, okay, now Morgan is back. And then he went a little crazy again, right? He went a little crazy at that point after that
Right.
kid died. Yeah, he went crazy, and then he had to be brought back, and it's so good. His progression is
Yeah.
really good.
Absolutely. And
Oh, you were saying something and got muted. Here's a question. Do you guys think that Carol and Daryl spinoff is going to happen? I hope it is. I think they're gonna do that spinoff, and I think they're gonna do um Negan and Maggie. Those are the two that I really want to see. I'm really interested in that. But with that being said, I'm curious to know what's gonna happen to Ezekiel, right? Because I know they were married and then they got divorced, and they're not really together or stuff, but I figured maybe she would go back with Ezekiel or something like that. But if she doesn't, then she's running off with Daryl. I think maybe Ezekiel might end up dying. So that would be interesting, which would be kind of messed up if he did die because Terrence lost him. But I was going to close up anyway soon. So but I was gonna say it would be messed up if he did die because he went through the cancer scare where they thought he was gonna die, and they ended up removing the tumor from his neck. So it's like you're removing the tumor from his neck to be, okay, and then you kill him off later. So I don't know. Triple X said there's a rumor going around that Eddie Brock cameo is being considered for Madam Web. Um, I get it, but Eddie Brock should be in Spider Man. He's a Spider Man villain, so that's where I think they should show Eddie Brock. But yeah, all right, you're back.
Yeah, sorry about that, bro. Like, I don't know what happened. My phone was just like overheating, and then I was like, "What the fuck?" And then it was like shut down in 20 seconds. I was like, "No, fail." Did it just?
It's all good. It's all good. Like I said, I was gonna close it up soon. Just a quick question here was Triple X said there's a rumor going around that Eddie Brock's cameoing in being considered to cameo in Madam Web.
Damn. No, my shit look like my shit about to shut off again. Hold on. Wait, what
Yeah,
was
no
that
problem.
question? I'll try to answer it.
Yeah, Eddie Brock's being considered for a cameo in Madam Web. Ah, shit. Shut off right before he did. Okay, so we didn't get an answer for that. Um, and like I said with the Daryl and Carol spinoff, I hope it's happening. I'll say this: we still don't really know what's happening with the Rick movie, or if that's even happening anymore. So there's 8 more episodes of The Walking Dead before it's completely over, where that series is done. We need to get some fucking um resolution with what's happening with Rick. We need to find out what's happened with Rick. It's just going to be kind of messed up if they don't do a movie and we only get like 1 episode of them explaining what happened to Rick. I wouldn't mind seeing maybe a mini series of what happens to Rick after they take him from when the bridge blows up and they think he's dead till present. So I hope they do that. But with that being said, guys, Terrence, okay, he's back. So I'll ask him the question before. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so now I know like I cannot leave my phone on the charger itself while it's on the stream. Like I don't know like if it causes the overheating issue, but it only happens when so and then usually gotta like cool down for like a couple minutes
and then he got kicked out again. Wow, okay. Okay, I heard that the Rick movie got turned into a miniseries. Well, I think that would be the best thing to do, right? If they do it, at least you'll get more episodes of something or explanation of what happens to Rick. So I hope that happens. K-Dot says StreamYard makes phones overheat. Ah, you see, I didn't even know that. I don't like to use my phone on StreamYard anyways. I'll only do it if I really, really have to, but I don't like to. But yeah, I don't know if he's coming back, and I gotta get over to Square One. So guys, make sure to check that out over on Mr. Comic Chat, aka Danny's channel, where we're talking some sports, and we will be doing our fantasy draft. So that should be fun to watch us curse and get mad at each other for taking a player. So that should be interesting. But be sure to check us out next week where we will be reviewing episode 3. I'm a week ahead of Terrence, so I've seen it already, and I really enjoyed it. So I think he will do too. And yeah, we'll have a discussion on that. But with that being said, guys, see you on the next one. Peace.
Brainstorming, rain stay pouring all over the court. Check trade scoring, a rational activist. Others remain dormant, factual passages. Able to wage war when time call for it. Burn fire upon corporate setting his back. Sun is fall forward. See the big picture. Don't get stuck on small portraits. Tap resources, your 3 inner forces. Mind, body, and soul working like piano chords. Linking the piece together from the root like Neanderthals. Preserving animalistic behavior when I convert into the cross satanic spiritual savior. Words that are used are the truth if I never gave ya anything else in your life. Remember words that I breathed on this mic. I print people a copy to read what I write. Tell it fast like Mach speed on a bike. Like a native chief, I speak and bring peace with a pipe. Subtle as a thief in the night with peace in the light. Check the blacking out like Slobodan Milosevic. Hold that, take some with you. Eternal pain when New Jerusalem hit you. Fall back, don't press the issue with script, lock, script, check, Bethlehem officials.